The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
we are now about to witness the truth.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Benjamin Dixon Show. Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is Monday, January 23rd, 2015. 2017. Thanks so much for joining us. You could have been anywhere in the world today, but you decided to be here with us here at the Progressive Army, progressivearmy.com. Thank you so much for being a supporter. Big shout out to YouTube. YouTube, we have crossed 15,000 subscribers. We actually crossed last week, I believe, while I was in D.C., and we are growing at a fascinating rate. I guess we hit that magic threshold where you start growing every day versus getting, actually, hell, we're halfway to 16,000. So sorry about that. Also, big shout out to Spreaker, the internet radio audience. We also have crossed over 15,000. Somewhere in here are a list of all the new patrons, and I'm going to pull that up. I always want to thank the patrons at the top of the show. We cannot do it without you. Without you, this is simply not possible. So much to talk about tonight, so much to go over, so much bullshit in the air. Can you smell it? Can you? I mean, it's everywhere. From Donald Trump, who I have accidentally called, but I think I like his new name, President Orange Julius. Of course, there's President Fuckface Von Clownstick, but that's a little vulgar. I can't always say that. I might have kids listening, so when I can't say Fuckface Von Clownstick, I think Orange Julius, in reference to his orange skin, obvious, and the dictatorial nature of Julius Caesar, but clearly not giving him the credit of being someone as brilliant as Julius Caesar, even if nefarious. Whatever. President George, whatever, I can't even think of this dude's name. He is a clown, and it has been a clown-filled weekend with Sean Spicer, the press secretary. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about alternative facts. The funniest thing about alternative facts is the fact that here on a local radio station, brand new R&B station here in Boston, they clowned his ass about alternative facts. Hell, all day today. I'm like, this is such low-hanging fruit that even the R&B stations, folks who normally, and I'm sure, other stations too, the folks who normally don't talk politics can easily score on Conway and Spicer, the dynamic duo of the Ministry of Information for President Orange Julius. So anyway, we'll talk about that bullshit. But there's not only bullshit coming from Donald Trump. There's also cow dung coming from the left. And when I say the left, I don't mean the true left. I mean the Democratic Party left. And then there's also a lot of bull coming from content creators. And I'm a content creator, so of course I have to give some commentary on that. So we'll talk. I have no idea what's up with Gmail. Hey, somebody... I actually pay for this account. What's up, Gmail? Why did it took that long for my Gmail to come up? But anyway, all right. Now that being said, I want to thank all of our patrons, all of our newest patrons over the weekend. Again, if you want to become a patron and support, you can go to patreon.com/the BPD show and get access to bonus material. Special shout out to Jacob for becoming a patron. Terrence, thank you for becoming a patron, actually increasing your pledge. Melissa, thank you for becoming a patron. And Alex, thank you for becoming a patron. And that is Alex K. Alex K, thank you. We had another Alex last week. Alex K, thank you so much for your patronage. We can't do it without you. Okay. All of the introductions and the formalities out of the way. Let's talk about some news. All right. So first things first. Let's talk about the inauguration. Let me give you a brief. I know we've talked about it, and we did a little clip on it yesterday. If you want to hear me and Anoa, my sister from another mister, just go at it. actually go at it over something we agree on. But go to Michael Solomon's page and check out the footage, the audio from yesterday. It was a great conversation. And we gave pretty much a full recap. But the inauguration, and again, thank you for everyone who donated to help us get to the inauguration. We had a great time. We did as much coverage as we could. There was a internet blackout on Inauguration Day, and then there were just far too many people who showed up to the Women's March for signals to get out. So we couldn't do much live streaming like we were able to do at the DNC, but we got a lot of pictures, a lot of recorded video that we uploaded and shared. So thank you to everyone who helped us to get there. Now, the inauguration, you've seen the numbers, and a lot of people wonder why we're talking about numbers. The only reason, in terms of who showed up to the inauguration, the only reason it's relevant to discuss that is because of how blatantly Conway, Trump, and Spicer are willing to lie to us, even though we have seen it with our own eyes. Now, do politicians lie? Yes. Did Obama lie? I'm sure we could find a litany of lies. Or is this the first time a press secretary has lied to us? No. So it's not as though we're feigning, oh, we've been lied to, we don't know what to do. It's the type and character of lie that is worth us discussing. More importantly, it's worth us not ignoring. Because some people want us to ignore these things because, I don't know, they want to control what we talk about. No, anyway. No, it's important that we discuss the nature and the type of lie because if they're willing, Spicer, Conway, and Trump. Spicer's a press secretary. Conway, I believe, is some type of special assistant who goes on the media, all the media shows, and, of course, Donald Trump. They're willing to lie about vanity. Vanity of vanities. It was all vanity. They're willing to lie because they're ashamed. Donald Trump is ashamed that only 1/3 of the people who showed up on Saturday actually showed up to his inauguration. The inauguration, they say some estimates of about 250,000 people attended, not counting the actual protesters who were out there. And then on Saturday, the following day, over 750,000 women and men participated in the Women's March, and non-gender conforming people participated in the march. So this is something that was so important to Trump that he pushed his press secretary, Sean Spicer, out before the nation, before the press corps, to lecture them on how their eyes were lying to them, and they need to listen to what he is saying on behalf of Donald Trump. And if they don't, they need to realize that his words, the media will be held accountable. Donald Trump's vanity and ego, that's going to be his demise, his political demise. Without question, his ego and his need to make the world think what he thinks and control the situation and control what people think about him, and his childlike minions who don't have enough nerve to lose their job in order for them to do the right thing. They would rather keep their jobs and go out in front of the world, Sean, and make yourself look like a complete buffoon, a complete moron. Like there's no high, lower in between. You know, we saw the pictures. We were there. I didn't need to see the pictures. We were there. Let me tell you how easy it was. We got downtown DC, I would say at about 9:30. Inauguration started at about 11:20. I got there pretty late for a huge event. And I was able to park about 2 blocks away from the White House. Maybe 3, because there was an extra barricade there. Maybe it was 3 blocks. But I got so close to the White House and just kind of perused, just walked away around. No problem, no traffic, just easy going. The very next day, I think we had to park, what was it, Solomon? We parked about, 3 miles away? Something ridiculous. And shoulder to shoulder with hundreds of thousands of people. Does it matter Well, yeah, actually it does. For the people who say it doesn't matter, it absolutely matters because numbers is power. Numbers is electoral power, right? So it's very fatuous to dismiss the importance of how many people showed up in opposition to Trump because that is political power. Now, what are their politics? That's a whole nother conversation, right? There's some problematic shit out there. Of course, that's a whole different conversation for another day, but it matters, right? Numbers translate, if you organize them, translate into electoral power. But more importantly than that, do you realize the simple shit that Donald Trump is willing to look in our face and lie to us about? Now, tell me if he's not going to lie about so many other things that are of significance. This is, on a scale of significance, highly insignificant. But his willingness to do this in order to save face, not just ego, not just hubris, not just embarrassment, but to save face, shows you that this will be his downfall. His ego, his pride, his arrogance will ultimately be his downfall. Now, whether he makes it through 4 years without getting impeached, I'm not making that prediction, but I'm letting you know that it's just to see. Now, and then to have willing accomplices, right? People who are willing, like his staff. And to be fair, I did read a report, I believe it was from the New York Times, that stated that the majority of his staff told him to leave it alone. I just believe there has to be enough smart people in the Republican circle, and everybody who's a Republican is not an idiot, right? If you believe that, then you're already lost. So I just knew there had to be some smart people in the Republican Party somewhere, right? And so it sounded like the majority of his staff wanted him to leave this issue alone, but it was so near and dear to him that he sent out his press secretary, and quite honestly, the press secretary should have had enough self-preservation or interest in self-preserving his future to not come out there and say, look at this picture and tell me how many lights you see. There are 4 lights. Sorry, I don't know who got that. You have to watch Star Trek to get that one. All right, so that's the first bit of insanity that came from this weekend. Never mind his speech. I mean, I listened to his speech, whatever about his speech. But what's important is the fact that we are here in this place and we are moving forward with an administration that has no qualms whatsoever lying to us about simple things because of ego and pride and saving face. All right, 857-600-0518 if you want to join the conversation. I'd love to get you in and see what you think. What did you think about the protest? What do you think about the riots? I think the highlight for me, to be honest with you, I'm not always I tell you all the time, I'm not always a good person, and I'm okay with that. The highlight of the entire damn weekend for me was seeing the Nazi, what's his name? Richard Spencer. Seeing him get mollywopped by, I believe it was an anarchist. I don't know what they officially call themselves, but it was beautiful. And shout out to Anoa Changa and Michael Solomon, who were right there at the time. And it was funny because they came back and they were upset. They were troubled. They were like, this is ridiculous. Why would these rioters, why would these anarchists just go up to a Trump supporter and just hit him? Because they were sitting there like, why do they do that? It's just, because, we're good human beings. They didn't know that it was Richard Spencer. So we're sitting at dinner with some other friends from D.C., and the video finally got around of Richard Spencer getting his head bust by this anarchist, I guess, whatever they call themselves. And all of a sudden, our dismay turned into elation. I'm sorry. I know we should be bigger than that. I'm not always going to be bigger than that. I'll tell you that now, because, I'm not going into any justifications of the use of violence, whatever. But I do get joy out of people whose ideology is pure hatred and would use violence against humanity. I enjoy seeing them embarrassed, if nothing else, before the entire world. See, there are dregs of society who should not be so cavalier about the bullshit that they believe. I'm sorry. Yes, it's a free society. You can believe whatever you want to. Come in the public square and say what you want to. But I have no qualm with some people feeling as though their ideology is so repugnant to society that maybe, just maybe, they should keep that racist, hateful, anti-Semitic, anti-LGBTQ, anti-foreigner, all this evil shit that they represent. Maybe they should just keep that shit at home. Maybe it's in their best interests, right? Now, I don't condone violence. But I will press rewind, Richard, and watch that shit every time I get a chance. Because that, my friend, was an ass whipping real quick, fast, in a hurry. I'm sorry. I probably lost 100 followers. I probably lost 100 listeners. But I'm sorry. If you hear this dude's ideology, you hear what he represents and you hear what he stands for. I mean, he got hit so hard. He got hit so hard that last night on Twitter, he came back saying, I'm not what, he called himself quoting Nelson Mandela and said, I'm not what happened to me. I am what I choose to be. I mean, it's something. It's got to be a hell of a ass whipping for you to go from saying, seek hell, to saying positive affirmations, Richard. Oh, man. Next thing in your agenda would be for you to, just go ahead and fully convert, become a social justice warrior for all that matter. All right. Let me, I'm sorry. But that was, it was, and don't pretend like you don't ever watch a fight video when it comes through your timeline. I just don't normally share it. But when it is a Nazi, a self-avowed Nazi, getting the ass whipping, I think that's worth the retweet, right? I mean, who tweeted? Somebody else tweeted this. This was not mine. I mean, you got Indiana Jones, who famously not only beat some Nazis, but just like beat the shit out of one particular Nazi. Just a classic image of Indiana Jones. And then you have Captain America in the same frame coming through and knocking the hell out of a Nazi. And then you have some anonymous guy knocking the hell out of a modern day Nazi, a dapper Nazi, but still a Nazi, So the quote around it was, beating the ass of a Nazi is as American as American pie. But again, I want to make it clear. I personally do not condone violence, but I will. If it's a Nazi, and here's the other thing. Let's go one step further with this conversation. The hell, I'd have lost, whoever, you leave, be disappointed. I get it. I got it. Everybody's not as callous as me. This is me, Sarah Silverman puts out a series of tweets calling Richard Spencer, who believes in white genocide, believes in segregation of the races, separation of the races, who fully believes that whites are superior to everyone else. All out Aryan nation white supremacists. She puts out a tweet saying, Sarah Silverman, the Democratic actress, right? She puts out a series of tweets calling Richard Spencer, who's like 38 years old, calling him a young and confused man who now, instead of being willing to hear our ideas, is going to retreat into his own hatred and bigotry because somebody punched him. Richard Spencer, if he had his way, just you finish the sentence, right? I don't have to be hyperbolic. You finish the sentence. What do these neo-Nazis want? And they would accomplish it using force. But besides that, this is a 38-year-old man who is making bank off of his racist, anti-Semitic, anti-LGBTQ ideology, and you refer to him as a young man who's lost? As though he stumbled into Nazism? That's not some shit you just stumble into, right? It's not as though you open up a book, Mein Kampf, and say, I wonder how this story ends. And then at the end, you're converted into a Nazi. What the? So if you want to condone violence, that's fine. I don't condone. I condemn violence. Condemn it. It's horrible. We were very upset about what we saw, especially when we thought it happened to an innocent Trump supporter. But it got a little more palatable once we realized it was one of the most hate-filled people in the world, in the United States at a minimum. I guess I can't compare him to Kim Jong-un. But anyway, caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, comment, or actually, we lost you. All right, caller. You were there. You're gone. 857-600-0518 if you want to join the conversation. Oh, I don't have my auto answer on. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, comment, or question?
Oh, hey, did you already get to me? Wow, that was fast.
Yeah, yep. I cleared the lines just for you, man. What's on your mind?
Oh, thank you. Hey, it's Nick from Oregon. Good to hear from you.
Hey, Nick, how's it going, man? Thanks for the call.
Good. It's going great. So I wanted to tune in, or I wanted to ask, I'm not sure if you addressed this already. It's kind of fringe in terms of worries or concerns, but I was wondering if you had any opinion on, I guess not so much Elizabeth Warren's vote. I mean, it matters too, but specifically Bernie Sanders' vote on, I can't remember, it's not Tillerson, but it's the, I think it's Mattis?
General Mattis.
Whatever. Yeah.
Right, for Secretary of Defense.
He had some kind of explanation. Yeah, and he had some explanation about it, like, I think he has more moderate positions or whatever than the other ones. I just wondered if you had an opinion on that, and that was my only question.
Okay, that's a good call. Thanks for the question. And I'll give it to you off air. So, all right, let's shift gears. Let's shift gears a little bit. So Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren support General Mad Dog Mattis as head of the Pentagon. Here's the deal. We're not going to get a Democratic or progressive-leaning secretary cabinet member. Can we all agree there? Let's start there. We're not going to get that. Two, there are worse choices than Mattis, right? There are worse choices than, and it's hard to believe, but believe that, right? There are worse choices out there. And the only reason I'm thinking of it this way, somebody actually argued me down about this. I had a hard line, like no support across the board, period. But, they called me on it and said, would you want someone who's actually far worse than Mattis as Secretary of Defense? I mean, there are some, it's not like we're going to go in a better direction with Donald Trump. Now, I'm not just using this to justify, like let's take Betsy DeVos, for example. She is the absolute worst choice for the Department of Education. If a Democrat votes for her, we need to primary the hell out of them and get them the hell out of there, right? Tillerson, I've got a litany of problems with Tillerson, but Donald Trump does have the capacity of doing worse. So we have to ask ourselves the question, what do we actually expect to get out of these nominations? Do we expect to block the nominations? No, because the majority of them, some of them at least, are straight party line vote. They don't require supermajority. So unless somebody, I think in some cases, they actually can place a filibuster on them. Are we asking our leaders to keep key positions empty for the next 4 years? I mean, Republicans did do it. I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't have an opinion on it because we are going to get Donald Trump. He could put recess appointments. He could put somebody there in his stead. There is really no stopping Donald Trump's agenda. And we could block somebody like Mattis and end up with somebody worse than Mattis. DeVos is the worst, right? I cannot imagine. Ben Carson for HUD is the worst. Rick Perry for the Department of Energy is the absolute worst. I cannot imagine it getting any worse. But in the Department of Defense, I actually can't imagine someone worse than Mattis. And this is not to say that I just trust Bernie Sanders or trust Elizabeth Warren, which I don't. It's to say we have to really evaluate what do we expect to get out of this unless we're willing to just block and put a blanket hold on any of Trump's nominations. And then what does that actually do for the institutions? Because honestly, the institutions themselves are really our last barrier of defense, our last line of defense, right? That's all I got for you on that. All right, 857-600-0518. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, comment, and or question?
Is this me?
This is you. You're live. What's up?
This is Umar from Brooklyn. Hello,
Brooklyn's
Ben.
in the
It's been a
house,
minute.
man. What's happening, dude? Long time.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question that's more towards what I would say. I want to put the caveat on this is my opinion.
Okay, sounds good.
Now, I think that we've reached a point where we got to start calling monsters monsters.
Mm-hmm.
I get the whole we want to try to understand other people's point of view, but I don't think you're going to change these people's point of view whether you're going to be polite or not. For instance, you did an awesome debate with Sargon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm one of those people who are against debating those people because I think all it does is give them attention. It doesn't change their minds, doesn't
Right.
change their listeners' minds.
Not at all.
If you're a hardcore supporter of something, nothing's going to change your mind. If you're ignorant about something, I have never seen ignorant uplifted, especially from a sexist or a racist or white supremacist point of view. My overall point is this. The constant belief or the message that's put out by everybody, and I get where they're coming from, that, look, you have to understand Trump supporters. They're not all, wait a minute, stop. They're not all racist. Okay, let's exchange Trump with David Duke.
Mm-hmm.
All right, maybe everybody who voted for David isn't a racist, but what does he espouse? What is the things that he says, the message you do, and his actions? See, and this is about actions, because a lot of people seem to forget that when someone calls Trump these labels, there are actions that back that up.
Right.
So even if you I want to change, but the man said horrible things and you voted for that. So you call yourself well-meaning. I equate it to this. I have a neighbor, nice, I'm going to say nice white guy. I'm a black guy. Okay. We're friendly. One day I'm over his house, barbecue or something, and I happen to glance down his table and see that he is sending donations to the KKK. Now, he's never called me the N-word.
Seriously?
He never treated me badly. And, when, we borrow some stuff, our kids play together, but he donates to the KKK. People go, well, don't say guilt by association. But wait a second. Whoa, you gave your vote to this.
Yeah.
So I think the problem progressives has is we got to stop calling monsters monsters and stop being polite about it and stop being, and yeah, I enjoy the Spencer thing too. I replay it all the time because I think that there's a contingent of people who think they're going to create crystal knock or something. And they've got to be told, well, there's a contingent of progressives that's not going to put up with that. And we call us the fringe, if you wish. But I'm saying, don't you think it's just time to stop dancing around it and call monsters monsters? And I go, well, that's my answer.
Yeah,
Wait
man.
to see you still doing the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Umar, thanks for that call, man. I absolutely agree. And let me tell you how I agree more than anything else. For instance, Chuck Todd this weekend and with the issue with Kellyanne Conway, sorry, don't want to say her name incorrectly, could not bring himself to say that Trump was a liar or that Spicer was a liar or that she was a liar. He kept tiptoeing around the issue and calling them falsehoods. He wouldn't say that what they said was a lie. He just had to call them falsehoods. And the inability, let me start that. Our inability to call something what it is gives power to those people. Are you afraid of losing access? Are you afraid of losing friends? Are you afraid of making people angry? If your neighbor is donating to the KKK, he might as well be wearing a sheet himself because he's paying for sheets. He's paying for them to get, he's paying for the crosses that they burn. I don't care if he doesn't actually is a card-carrying member of the KKK. He's donating to the KKK. Likewise, call it what it is. He may as well be a Klansman. You are a Klansman. And we talk about the actions of Donald Trump, all of his actions so far. And this is why it blows me away. Let me take a quick sidestep. For people to attack Donald Trump, not even Donald Trump, for people to attack those of us who agree with Donald Trump on the TPP, don't you realize there are 99 other issues that he's going to be dead ass wrong on, and he's already wrong on? So Trump has shown us, he has proven to us that he is exactly who he says he is. Call him like you see him, plain and simple. Don't beat around the bush. I wanted to say beat a Nazi, but I don't condone violence. I do not condone violence. But I have some friends that do. Man, I've got some friends. Anyway, 857. Let's take a couple more calls, and we got to cover some stories about all the other bullshit that's happening this week, and some glimmer of hope, maybe. I don't know. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, comment, and our question?
Hey, man, this Bryce is going on. So, obviously, this whole Trump thing is just a train wreck with Kelly and Conway and, you know, the Spice or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
That dude. It's like, it's funny and it's sad and everything at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's just mind-blowing. It's like, you know, the TPP thing and the NAFTA thing, okay, that's cool. But still, you could try to do something that could be totally different that would still benefit people that's rich. And basically, everything else is going to do is just pretty much, it's just a shitstorm, man. We just have to fight it, do what we have to do about that. But it's just, it's just mind-blowing. Then they gave that speech to the CIA,
Yeah.
and they were sitting there like, what the hell is going on? Like, it's like it's comedy,
Yeah.
and it's like a scary movie at the same time.
Yeah.
It's just mind-blowing, and obviously we're going to do what we have to do as progressives, and it will be fine. But it's just I don't know. I have no words for this. Only in America. Only in America.
Only in America. The funny thing about you saying only in America is the fact that Trump has been. I was talking with Max over the weekend as we were traveling back and forth to D.C. Trump has been in the American lexicon for so long. So it only makes sense that, you have rappers who are rapping about Trump like back in the 90s, right? So in a weird perverted way, it only makes sense that he would end up becoming the president of the United States. But that's just one aspect of what you're saying. But in terms of the reality, the grim reality, the sobering reality of what Donald Trump represents and what he and where he's taken us, right? The very first thing he did, and actually I want to start a new clip on this. The very first thing Donald Trump did when he got into office was to remove the mortgage deduction for people who get an FHA mortgage through HUD, right? So the very first thing he does is attack working class poor people who are struggling to just get a home, right? Not people who are on their second or third home and have, no, people who are struggling to get a home. That's the very first things he does. Then he attacks a woman's right to choose globally and funding and stripping away funding. Then he removes from the White House website any reference to climate change, civil rights, Voting Rights Act, LGBT marriage equality. He purges these things. And he's shown to us that he is exactly who we thought he was going to be. There's no chance that has to be given to someone who has shown you that they have every interest in destroying all the things that you fought for. So there's no giving him a chance. And I don't care if he's right on the TPP. Fine. It's like you take a step back, you see somebody you don't like fighting against something you don't like, you take a step back and you don't get in it and let them destroy each other. Let them fight. Let Orange Julius bring down the TPP. We just take a step back and watch it happen. This doesn't mean we like him. Doesn't mean we support him. It means that he is a useful means to an end to get rid of the TPP. Doesn't mean we support him. Doesn't mean that we're going to back him or anything else. It just means that 1 out of 100 things that he's wrong about, he's actually right about. So we take a step back and let them fight. And I don't care if he's right on the TPP. He does not deserve our support on anything else unless it is expressly in our favor and in the favor of the things that we fight for. But he has shown us that it's not going to be that. He has shown us that he has every intention of gutting any positive progress that we have made over the last 50 years to the detriment of women, LGBTQ, minorities, to the detriment of the working class, to the detriment of labor, and all to the benefit of corporations, the wealthy top 1%. So for those people, there's another group of people that get in on the shenanigans of the bullshit today. Those people are like, oh, well, look at what he's done with the TPP. And shit, you get 1 out of 100. That's like you might as well get a 0 on a test, right? 1% is not passing. Great. He's right on the TPP. Now let's talk about all the other things that he is destroying. And the group I'm tired of the most. I'm sorry. I'm feeling a lot. The group, and I got this, damn it, I got this screen up, but still. The group that I'm getting tired of the most are the people who are defending Trump at every step of the way because they don't like the Democrats. Hell, I don't like the Democrats. But you know, that does not make Donald Trump my ally. Donald Trump is as much my political rival. He is even more so my political rival because he is in power. He is the person who's authorizing drone strikes at this point. He is the person who's authorizing $1 billion worth of arms sales to Saudi Arabia. He is the person who is who's going to be gutting all of the little bit, the remnants of a safety net that we have. And yet you have some people who claim to be progressive. They're just content creators, in my opinion. They'll create content about anything, who run out there and will do anything they can to tacitly support Trump without coming straight out and saying they're just a Trump supporter because they know they'll probably lose 80% of their audience. And I knew it. The other thing I knew what was going to happen, I knew that the lure of attacking President Obama, the Democratic Party, and the Hillary Clinton contingency is so attractive because there's so many good things that we can attack them on. I mean, they're just wrong on a lot of shit. They're just wrong, right? They're wrong on, especially when it's a comparison between what they stand for and what progressives stand for. It is great fodder. But I knew, without a shadow of a doubt, I knew in my heart that they were not going to be able to pivot to the person that's in power now. Shout out to WikiLeaks. I don't really like you too much, but you kept it 100, so I have to eat my words. You shifted gears, and now you are going after the person who is in power. You're not out there relitigating the primaries. You're not out there doubling down on Obama or Hillary Clinton. Neither one of them have power at this point. The person who has power to shape the destiny of the world is Donald Trump. And you've got some people who can't bring themselves to addressing Donald Trump, let alone attacking Donald Trump, but they can't even address the issues of Donald Trump because they're still stuck on, oh, President Obama has a horrible black legacy. And I'm a fan of Cornel West. Cornel, you know, we've got bigger fish to fry at this point. Not just Cornel West. You got other people who are less famous that I know personally that I'm not going to call their names until I talk to them in their DMs. But the point is, fuckface Von Clownstick is in the White House. Orange Julius is in charge of the nation. He's in charge. He is the person who is running this economy, running our international relations. He is the person that, at the end of the day, the buck stops with him, period. And you still have people who can't put a video together without making it about Hillary Clinton. You know how lame that is? Do you know how whack that is? It's as whack as Hillary Clinton supporters making shit still up about Bernie Sanders. You know that feeling you get in your gut when you see somebody attacking Bernie Sanders? You're like, this is, what the hell is this? Is this February or January 2016? Are we a year late? Is this a time warp? Yeah, that's how I feel when I see people who cannot realize Hillary is lost, Barack Obama's flown off into the sunset, they're gone, the Democratic Party still needs to be gutted, but still Donald Trump, he's got the reins of power. He's got control of the economy as much as a president can have control over the economy. He has complete control over our foreign policy because that's 100% in his purview. And you're still making stuff up about Barack Obama, who's gone golfing. That's okay. Keep making it up because you'll be completely irrelevant. There you go. Keep doing that shit. Be irrelevant. We've got real work to do. We got real work to do, and we have to fight on two fronts. We have to fight against neoliberals and the remaining. If you're going to attack anybody in the Democratic Party, attack the people in the Democratic Party who still carry neoliberalism, third wave Democrats, the DLC, who still carry the Hillary Clinton power structure, the Clinton machine. Those are real people with real names, with real fundraising dollars. We have to go after them because they are the people who lost this election to Trump in the first place. And then we also have to fight back against Donald Trump with just as much energy because, yes, he's right on the TPP, but he's wrong about 99 other things. Now, what are you going to do? Sit back and just fondle yourself over the TPP? Oh, God, it was good. The TPP is gone. Sorry about that, folks. Caller, you're live on the air. I don't know what the hell that was. No idea where that came from. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, comment, and or question?
Yes, hello, Ben. It's Jared from Downingtown, PA.
Hey, man, how's it going?
Nice to talk to you again.
Always a pleasure.
Pretty good. I wanted to call in since you mentioned the TPP and Trump killing the deal. Here's my takedown of what I think of it, and then I'm going to also mention another trade deal as well. So I don't think the TPP is dead per se. I think he's going to try to bring it back with a different name because I think that the sectors of capitalism, since Trump is simply a puppet, is going to do what they tell him to do.
Absolutely.
And it's just going to probably be a different name. And then he'll say, well, I'm a great negotiator and I did all this and blah, 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 blah. We made it better, see? And you know how I know? You know how I know? Because you may not have heard about this in the news. He's meeting with Theresa May, the Prime Minister, about a trade deal with the United Kingdom. And I just think, like, just the blatant hypocrisy from the Trump voters. He spent 2 years railing about all these trade deals, and how they're raping the country or whatever. And he also was talking about the Korean trade deal, the single trade deal between Korea and the USA. And all the Trump voters are so stupid. I call them cultists now because that's what they are. Like, whenever I bring up this trade deal, they say, well, it's good because Trump did it, and it's good because it's with a developed nation or something. And then I bring up the fact that with the Korean free trade deal, we had like a record sky-breaking trade deficit with the country, and just like any trade deal is awful. Okay, let's try to get something straight here. None of these trade deals are good for us. Period. It doesn't matter if it's with one country or multiple countries. This is the Orwellian speak. We don't need a trade deal. People think it means trade. It's not trade. Chomsky pointed out these are highly protectionist agreements that maximize corporate profits. They're not good for the average American. And Trump is going to shill for them just like every other president.
I agree. I agree with that last thing you said, Jared. Thanks for the call, man. I definitely agree with the very last thing that you said, that Trump is going to essentially change the font size of the TPP. Don't think for a second. The people that Donald Trump met with this morning, the business sector, right? All the executives that he met with and promised that he's going to cut regulation and that he's going to cut taxes and be pro-business. They're not going to stop there. They were the architects of the TPP, not just them other corporations, right? They want greater access into the sector. They want greater access into the region. They want to be able to set the terms of the deal with 40% of the human population. So the TPP, I don't think it's gone anywhere either. I think if you go check my receipts, I've been saying that. I never really cared that Donald Trump opposed the TPP. I always believed fully that he would just bring it back in a way that, change the font size and he could take credit for it. Same with Obamacare. They'll repeal the Affordable Care Act, but, essentially they don't have a plan. There was somebody put a pittance of a plan to forward today. I mean, we could review that if you want to, but it's not a full plan, right? They don't have a plan. And so essentially they have two choices. They could either bring Medicare for all, a single payer system, or they're going to change the font side on the Affordable Care Act and give it back to you and say, hey, here's this wonderful Trump care. And his followers will eat it up and go along with it. And if he goes for single payer, you're going to have some Democrats who turn and oppose single payer because they don't know how to exist in the grays, in the tension in between someone you don't like doing something that you approve of. Doesn't make them your friend. It just means they did one thing that you approve of. All right, one more caller. Caller, you're live on the air. Patrick from Miramar, what's on your mind, man?
Hey, man, good to talk to you. It's been a while.
Always a pleasure, dude.
Speaking of, same here, man. Speaking of changing the font, I think the media is changing the font, so to speak, on their coverage of Trump, when there's not much change underneath. Because something was bothering me about, especially the Chuck Todd section of them feigning outrage over, quote unquote, the alternative facts.
Yeah.
Yes, I forgot what the exact phrase. But I'm thinking to myself, for years, the media has allowed Fox News to lay down this alternative reality, to spew blatant lies and propaganda. And for the media, not only did they not call them out, they defended them. I vividly remember when President Obama was not going to do that roundabout interview to include Fox News. All the other media outlets ran to their defense.
Right.
Despite it was clearly understood that Fox News is a propaganda outlet for the most part.
Yeah.
And not only had they not called out the media, they sought to mimic that business model. They hired the Megyn Kellys, MSNBC. They hired the Greta Van Susteren. CNN hired Hugh Hewitt. They hired Corey Lewandowski.
Yep.
They hired the perpetrators of creating this false narrative or this alternate reality, and now they want to feed knowledge about alternative facts. And this goes back to what I always say about the media being not just complicit, they're co-conspirators.
Right.
They didn't they didn't hire those anchors just to get the additional ratings. I think that's part of it, but it's clear that they hired them to maintain the current narrative on this current economic paradigm that we're in. And that's the reason why they're hired, because they wouldn't hire an Amy Goodman. I think she would get ratings, but it's not solely about ratings.
Right.
It's about pushing a particular narrative.
Absolutely.
So to see Chuck Todd and to see Joe Scarborough seeing this outrage when they have come to the defense and they've given legitimacy to real fake news, it just is like, please. So I'll take the call offline. I'll hear your comments.
Hey, thanks so much for the call, man. It's always a pleasure, and I think you hit the nail on the head. I honestly, if we're bringing back adversarial journalism across the board, I welcome it. But I've got a sneaky suspicion, just like you, Patrick, that that's not the case, that we're not actually going to bring back adversarial journalism. We're just bringing back, this is a threat to us. This is a direct threat to our profits and our ability to have access that we want. And so that's why they're upset. But as soon as Donald Trump does something that is in line with what they want, they don't care how many lies will come out of his mouth. They are the protectors in many ways. They are the protectors of the key narratives that sustain this economic paradigm unchallenged and unfettered. And so, of course, I mean, I don't think I have anything else more to say to that other than, amen, brother. I agree with you 100% on that assessment. All right. All right, I got 10 minutes left, and I haven't covered any news yet. Any news there? All right, let me see if there's some. There's plenty of stories to cover. Oh yeah, so here is this story is not surprising. I think we saw this coming, but I want people to understand who Donald Trump is. Donald Trump, his press secretary, Sean Spicer, has indicated that Trump will approve the Dakota Access Pipeline. The same pipeline that President Obama and the Army Corps of Engineers tried to initially put a stop at, after months of protests, after months of being ignored by the media. Finally, independent media made it national news, and finally the pressure was put on, and President Obama came around and tried to find another route. Donald Trump, as soon as he got in, has let it be known that he is going to pull it back and put it back in motion. Now, if I saw you make a video on No Dapple, and you don't talk about Donald Trump reinstating No Dapple, I got to call you out by name on air. All right, 857-600-05. That's all I got to say about that. All right, in other news, this was an interesting story, just a tidbit of a list of Donald Trump's executive orders that he I believe he signed a total of 80 executive orders, but top four, which were top four of our interests, basically. According to BBC, here are the top four. Instructing federal agencies to weaken Obamacare, right? This is a prelude to what they have, their wet dreams of ending Obamacare, repealing, not replacing, because they don't have a replacement. But that was one of the first things Donald Trump did when he got into office, was to instruct federal agencies to weaken Obamacare, reinstating a ban on international abortion counseling. Now, this is counseling. This is being parroted as some type of great victory for life. The government wasn't paying for abortions, and this is kind of where the pro-life movement does their best propaganda. Right, we're talking about. So anyway, and in the backdrop of him doing this, not a single woman represented. So you had an Oval Office full of white men creating international policy for women globally. He created a freeze with an executive order, a freeze on federal government hiring. And this is being parroted as a way of arresting the out of control growth of the federal government. And the data represents or reflects the exact opposite is true, right? The federal government has been contracting, not increasing. But with this, he gets to make it seem as though, he's bringing Obama's out of control federal spending, the expansion of the federal government. The federal government is too large, and his sycophants eat that shit up. And last but not least, withdrawing from the Trans-Pacific Partnership. That's where it's probably where we're going to end the rest of tonight. All right, 857-600-0518. Let's see how much time we have left. Oh, last story. Second to last story, for real. All right, so Ken, I can never pronounce your last name, my friend. Kippenstein. Ken Klippenstein. He is, I follow him on Twitter, a journalist. He did some digging and he found a unpublished proclamation. And it is the Trump has issued a proclamation designating Inauguration Day, January 20th, 2017, as the National Day of Patriotic Devotion. And if you read the proclamation, it actually reads, a new national pride stirs the American soul and inspires the American heart. We are one people united by a common destiny and a shared purpose. Freedom is the birthright of a blah, 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 blah. Our Constitution is written in parchment, blah, 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 blah. These are no greater people, blah, blah, blah. Now, therefore, I, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America, by virtue and the authority vested in me by the Constitution and of the laws of the United States, do hereby proclaim January 20th, 2017, a National Day of Patriotic Devotion in order to strengthen our bonds to achieve to each other, and to our country, and to renew the duty of government to the people. Okay, guys, so on January 20th, from now on, you have to rededicate yourself to the federal government. All right. And to be fair, President Obama did had a similar, I think the language is very similar to a similar proclamation by President Obama. This is just some weird shit that presidents do. I don't know why they do this, but Donald Trump is interesting that he did his own declaration for his Inauguration Day. It's just creepy, right? Donald Trump does it. Barack Obama does it. I mean, can we just get the next person to not do it? Because what is it? What are we trying to say? Like, is it just formality? Is it the first thing that you do? The first thing that you do when you become president is to ask the people to be dedicated to America. That's a little 1984. It's a little too 1984ish for me. I mean, I can quite literally do without people. I mean, we do the pledge everywhere, every day, every school. We are constantly dedicating ourselves to America. Last thing, America. The last thing we need is a proclamation from the president to tell us to worship and obey. All right, caller, you're the last caller of the night. What is your name, comment, and or question? Caller, this is you. All right, I don't have your name. I hear you breathing. All right, that's enough. I don't do the kind of calls. All right. So we've been talking about the TPP, and I don't have much time left. So let me just get down to my thoughts about the TPP and President Trump withdrawing us out of the TPP. Here's the problem. Here's the problem with TPP. Here's the problem with our politics today in general. And the reason this comes up is because we have a lot of noise on the periphery that is distracting us from the core question that we need to answer, right? We have a lot of voices who are either intentionally or unintentionally, I don't really care if they don't know better, they are serving the role of distracting us from some fundamental questions about how we are going to organize our society and move forward into the future. We have not answered two fundamental questions about the future of humanity. In fact, our elected officials would rather pretend as though there's no problem at all, that there are no questions, that everything is exactly as it should be. Those questions are, how do we balance the interest of labor in a world that is crafted to serve capital? And the other question is, how do we break free from the race to the bottom, competing with other nations for all of the crumbs that fall off the table of multinational corporations? When we have nations that would gladly give companies like Google and Apple a 0.0005% corporate tax rate, right? Anyone involved in that type of race is involved in a race to the bottom. So we have to ask ourselves the question, what are we going to do about the fight between capital and labor? And what are we going to do about our relationship with corporations? We haven't answered either of these questions. And those questions, the answers, the ramifications of those answers are so far reaching that they will be answered eventually, whether we want to address them or not. But instead of addressing them, instead of addressing the underlying problem of the very real competition between capital and labor, our leaders would rather try to sell you just the good parts of legislation, good parts of the TPP. Pay attention only to what's good about it and pay no attention whatsoever to the bad portions of these types of trade policies. It's either that or they would rather avoid the conversation altogether by deploying their identity-only political pundits to make every economic issue about racism. Every economic issue is a racism issue to them because they know if they could find a way to swift boat you in that way, you'll be stuck trying to figure out how the hell we, black people, minorities, women, people of color, all of a sudden became racist dude bros because we oppose an economic trade deal. And what's disturbing is that the newfound Democratic Party love of the TPP is the quintessential example of swift boating. Today, President Orange Julius signed an executive order removing the United States from the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP. Also today, media pundits and left-leaning outlets have come out in tacit support of the TPP because, as we all know, we must be willing to oppose Trump even when he's doing something we normally would agree with. And I get that you want to hashtag resist everything that Donald Trump supports, but my money is on Donald Trump being wrong 99 times out of 100. Pick one of the issues, pick one of the many issues that he's going to be wrong about and resist him there. But the TPP is not one of them. And to see Democratic-leaning media outlets like Think Progress swing their support in favor of the TPP, despite hundreds of thousands of Democratic voters opposing it during the primaries at the DNC, suggests that the Democratic establishment actually has no ideological center. They're merely becoming marketers and opportunists, if they weren't already that. So Samantha Page from Think Progress, she writes this paragraph, and I want you to hear this clearly. She says, from the right, the TPP was criticized for undermining U.S. manufacturing and jobs. From the left, it was criticized for not going far enough on human rights and environmental protections. This is masterful propaganda, realigning, asserting the interests of the left as being something that is completely not inclusive of the things that we actually care about. Basically saying that the left in America is only to be concerned with human rights and environmental protections, which we absolutely are. But I'm sorry, but our brains, our synapses are firing fast enough for us to be able to handle economic issues alongside of human rights issues, alongside of environmental issues, and yes, alongside racial issues. We can do both and all the above. The left also opposed the TPP because it would threaten American jobs without any meaningful protections for American labor or international labor. We're not simply concerned about the jobs of our brothers down the street. We are concerned about global labor, international labor. And while the TPP gave multinational corporations the ability to sue nations like the United States for any economic, environmental, or trade policy that would encumber their profits. And while the TPP also gave pharmaceutical companies additional patent protections for life-saving drugs, which would have made it more difficult for poor nations to get affordable, generic versions of their drugs to their populations, There were zero actionable protections for American and international labor. Yes, they made gestures towards labor. Yes, they made requirements for labor unions. Yes, they made requirements for a minimum wage, but they had no actionable measures for a nation to actually force another nation to acquiesce to the agreement when it came down to labor. Matter of fact, Robert Reich, former labor secretary for Bill Clinton, he wrote, "The TPP is a Trojan horse in a global race to the bottom, giving big corporations and Wall Street banks a way to eliminate any and all laws and regulations that get in the way of their profits." This is what the TPP was. Yes, it had meaningful provisions that would give the United States companies, advantages in a region of the world that included 40% of the world's population. Yes, it would have given us a leg up against China. Yes, it would have allowed us to be able to be leaders in that region of the world, being able to set the standards for our trade before China could have. Yes, it would have required nations to no longer bar labor unions and to institute a minimum wage. But the TPP gave corporations the means to sue whenever profits were hurt. And there were no meaningful measures for nations to act when labor was hurt. Furthermore, the TPP did nothing, absolutely nothing, to address the question that we have been avoiding since Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations, for the love of God. How will we actually balance the interests of hundreds of millions, billions of laborers who are at the mercy of capital? And it does nothing to answer the question of how can any nation actually thrive when corporations have us competing with each other to see who will give up the most concessions, who will charge the lowest corporate tax rates, who will remove the most environmental or labor regulations, fully exposing us to the whims of corporations? Which nation is going to be willing to become nothing more than the muse of the profits or for the profits of multinational corporations? That's the question. And that's what we should be discussing. But instead of that, we've got the usual suspects making this issue about race. I don't even know how the hell you do that. How do you make the TPP, an argument about race? That's beyond me. Maybe I'm not smart enough to see that bullshit around the corner, but it's just beyond me. But somehow we've taken the issue about labor rights and about bigger questions, and we reduced it down to being about Donald Trump is a racist. And if Donald Trump opposes the TPP, maybe that's something that we should support. I tell you what, in one of those many nations that we're going to sign on to the TPP, I'm sure there's a cliff. There's a cliff that's overlooking a valley that is big enough and deep enough that if you fall off of it, you would probably die. I want you to take your vapid, fatuous, childlike arguments and jump off that cliff.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. It's Ben Dixon! If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
No